Adventure time. We are in a roached out rented U-Haul truck hauling a rented U-Haul trailer to go get our next project. I'm not getting it towed on a flatbed because I don't know how well it's going to roll, to tell you the truth. So I haven't moved it in over 10 years and I have owned it for that long. So it's going to be fingers crossed, you know. I got some tools, got a spare tire. Actually, I just poached the tire back from the 27 because, yeah, that's what it's off of. Anyway, I'm not that great with a trailer. This is probably the 10th time in my life, maybe 12th time in my life I've towed a trailer. So there's going to be a little bit of an adventure there. I actually, you know, part of me wants a car hauler because, well, then I'd buy more junk, but part of me says I can't have a car hauler because then I would buy more junk, and you know, I'm pretty full up on junk. We're about to add more to it, so there's that. And on top of all that, I don't have a vehicle that can really tow one with any, you know, I could scoot around town, I guess. But my newest vehicle is a 1990 Isuzu Trooper, so that's not towing anything. And the C10 is an inline six that's tired, but obviously potentially could tow. But it's lowered, so there's a challenge there. And then the Blazer, it's got a V8 newly rebuilt transmission that I don't want to destroy, but in theory I could tow at that, but it's lifted. So towing with a lifted four-wheel drive truck just feels dumb. So yeah, I rented this thing, and I don't have to store a car hauler in my yard. See, Jesus, can you hear my voice going? It feels like either a wheel is about to fall off or one of these wheels is so out of balance or on a bent rim. Yeah, whatever, $100. Get to do this at a little more leisurely pace, but let's get there. Welcome back to Between the Sharks. We survived our little journey with our terrible U-Haul trailer and have some exciting news. Our newest project / our oldest project is actually here at the shop finally. What I mean is, this is the first car I ever bought. This car is the second car I ever bought. It's been sitting in my mother's garage for over 10 years while I did everything but work on it. And now, thanks to her help, I was able to keep it, and she actually helped push it onto the trailer and push it into this garage. So let's see what we got. This is a 1947-48 Mercury convertible. No joke. Folding top, still kind of in place. This is basically the condition I bought the car in. I've done some metal work on the fenders. Anything I could pull off, I did some work on, just rust repair, that type of thing. I haven't even put the rear fenders back on. I took them off for towing. Forgive these front wheels and the nose sitting sky high. There is no motor in it, and you may have noticed I might have poached those wheels and put them on our Model T project right over there. I jumped on this thing. It showed up on Craigslist a million years ago, and the 46, 7, 8 Ford and Mercury convertibles have been like burned in my brain since I was a little kid. I mean, I grew up in a generation where like I watched The Karate Kid a bunch, and Ralph Macchio had one. Grease was on in the house a lot, and Grease Lightning was one of these. Tim Allen built one on Home Improvement, which was sort of like, you know, generally on in the background at our house. And last but not least, I mean, obviously, I'd say most importantly, Biff drove one in the Back to the Future movies. I believe, for the most part, from the firewall back, it's very similar, if not the same as a Ford. The fenders might have a slightly different body line. They definitely had a different tail light. The front fenders forward, the wheelbase is 4 inches longer, so there's some extra length back here, and there's some extra length up here. Obviously, this whole Mercury grille thing is different than the Fords. I've never loved this, but I haven't quite figured out how to solve it, but that's going to be part of our journey. This body line, I actually like it much better on the Mercury than the Ford. The Ford has like a scallop that's rounded here. I dig the idea of the Mercury and the extra 4 inches of the wheelbase to like make this slightly longer, keep these body lines running a little further. Because once, especially when they're chopped, if you're not careful, especially if you run fender skirts, which I'm not gonna do, these things, they can get a little bit slug shaped. But I've been studying on these things for years. There are some examples of some things that I really love about these cars, especially when they're chopped. They can turn out looking like this. The grill is a huge problem, but I think just something about this body line has never worked for me. On a patina car, it actually can look really good, but anytime it's restored, it just doesn't do it. It's like it's lost between the 1939 and 1940 Mercs and the 1947, 48 Fords. Like this, it's just, we got to fix it. And I don't know how to yet, but we're going to. So I've done a ton of research on that, and there are some examples of like not so good custom work or things that I didn't think worked. They look like this. And there are two that kind of work, but neither one worked so well that I want to like draw from it. And it's this one and this one. The car is, for things that I buy, in great condition. It has had a ton of metal work done at this point. Somebody's put in flat floors and a flat firewall, I think from the Bitchin' company. Originally I was going to swap those out, but I don't necessarily think I am going to. That with just enough work, we'll be able to pull it back from street rod land and place it firmly into, you know, late 50s custom land. And that should be pretty cool, I think. I'm certain. I'm certain. I'm really excited about it. All right, let's take a real stock of what we got going on here. I popped the hood very precariously. I cut a very sloppy hole in the firewall to shove a steering box through. But what we're looking at is basically a stock frame that appears to have been sandblasted at some point and partially primed. The Bitchin' firewall, I really don't like it. It really bothered me for a long time. I don't like the flat firewall look. But the good news about it is whoever did it did a really good job about it. Originally, when I got the car, I stewed over it and I thought, I'll cut a firewall out of another one and on and on and on. But that ultimately seems really dumb, to damage a firewall or to damage another car just to take the firewall. And one of the things I learned from this one is it doesn't matter if you've got a hamster wheel under the hood powering the thing, or the most period correct Hemi, or an LS blah blah blah. At the end of the day, a car like this, a custom car like this will be, is really meant to be looked at like this, So it's really whatever your heart desires. So for me, I'm gonna let the firewall go and we're gonna run it the way it is, I think. Flathead is long gone, 3-speed's long gone. So I think we're gonna go with a period small block because I want this to be reliable. It's gotta do 70 miles an hour on the highway. It's gotta stop and go in Atlanta traffic. And at the end of the day, my mom expressed interest in it. So if she actually thinks it's cool when it's done, I want to be able to just throw her the keys and let her, cruise around town, that kind of thing. But the sheet metal, continuing on, is actually in quite good shape. I did some patching down here. This side is missing the running board, so we're going to have to address that. They started shaving some of the trim. Now, I shaved the fender trim on these two fenders, but we can poke those holes back if I change my mind. I do want to run this piece. I should close the hood really quick because I'm going to open the doors and that could cause some kind of disaster. But hold your horses. The chop appears to be, I don't know, 3 inches or so, based on that piece of trim. The cowl vent is there, which is awesome. I haven't tried to pry it open, and I don't think the handle is there. The floors have been replaced with bitchin' floors. Now, again, not really in love with this kit, but I don't care, right? Like, there's gonna be carpet and some other stuff in here. I know it's not traditional or period correct, but it's done, and it's done actually well, and it's done with like really high quality parts. Parts that I wouldn't have chosen, but parts. This seat is actually, it's got a big rip right there, which stinks, but otherwise it's super, super cool. So I would love to save it. I've got parts of a Lincoln dash, I've got a Ford dash, I've got some Lincoln gauges hanging around. Okay, wind. We'll see what we use. I do have the hydraulic cylinders. I think the other one is around here somewhere for the convertible top. This rear part of the floor has never been addressed, I guess. So there's like this whole seat riser contraption that goes in here that I'll have to, I think I can build from scratch, or I got to just figure out what it is. But for right now, I don't think it's going to be, you know, disadvantageous to be able to work on the rear axle-y stuff with access and, you know, whatever from the top right now. Some of the body mounts have been replaced. Again, all of this was sandblasted at some point, so that's good news. You can tell there's been a ton of metal work. They put in all sorts of patches over here, and my guess is they were trying to build what would appear to be a high dollar street rod. I don't know if they were going to get to like that final look, but fortunately, we're going to be able to snatch it right from the edge of that world and bring it back into much more 1950s custom world, which is, you know, what I like. You know, that's what I like. So that's what we'll do. It has the convertible top bows, which I love the look of the Carson tops on these, but there are some cool examples of the actual folding tops that look really great, especially with the chop, which I think we're just going to work with. I do like the chop windshield look, especially when the top is down. And I don't have any of the parts and pieces for this. So however they did this, we're just going to have to make it work from here. So this patch obviously needs some love and some final fitment. The doors actually work pretty well. Doesn't look like the doors have been patched. I do have the window regulators, which is nice. Rear fenders. This thing came with a set of the 2-inch wider fiberglass rear fenders. And the first thing I did was sell those. And I started working on, fortunately, there were 2 original rear fenders in there in bad shape. But these cars, they have a fender welting that goes between the fender and the body right up here. And that can cause all sorts of stuff to get stuck in here and, you know, they rot out. But the good news is it's relatively easy to fix and no one will ever really see it. So we can, you know, we can live with some of the marginal work that was done in here because, you know, that's, we're building a driver. Deck lid's in stupendous shape. It does have a thin layer of filler on it, but I've had the car for over 10 years and it's been in storage another 10 years beyond that. Maybe it's got filler, feels like filler, but maybe it's just primer because that's original metal. Don't know. What do you think, dog? Trunk is in remarkably good shape. Appears to be all original. Here's one of the clues for it being a late 47 or 48 is this roll pan and the lack of toolbox in the trunk. Work to do, but man, look at that. Honestly, didn't even pay that much attention. Hang on. There's a secret treasure map in here. This hood doesn't like the secret treasure map. What does this say? Oh, it's a note from my Uncle Mike. Hey Ryan, here's a couple of Hemmings. Uncle Mike. That's kind of cool. My Uncle Mike would send me his old Hemmings magazines that he would get. Again, the other fender is in very similar shape. Similar body work has been done here, although this part has been completed and there's at least some kind of running board on this side. So unfortunately I didn't get the other one, but that looks very easy to replicate. So I don't know if I'll even bother buying one. This side they shaved for some reason. So we're gonna be opening those holes back up for trim, I think. Here's the thing about stuff. I like door handles. I know shaving them became a thing really early on and then just got, you know, forced into custom language at some point in life. But at this point, cars don't have door handles anymore. I mean, Tesla's a push button. So let's go back to the land of chrome and neat stuff. Some of the trim I think was a little too much on the fenders, and they didn't, you know, the double strip of chrome I don't really love. But the nice sleek fender line used to have a piece of trim. The Mercury's stopped here on the hood, but I think we're gonna run the Ford trim or some kind of custom trim, you know, that runs to a point and follows that body line, and that will give us a pretty good line to put our door handle back in. But this door opens and closes as well. I just don't have a wrench to grab onto this guy. So all in all, obviously I bought somebody else's very unfinished project. The guy I bought it from bought it in this condition too. So this car has been sitting, I'd say something like 20 years, at least 20 years, just like this, which means this work was done in it looks like mid-90s work. It looks like mid-90s products. The floor and the firewall to me are still made, I think, but their height of popularity was like the post-80s street rod into like the early 90s, like ZZ4 motor street rod era. I'm pretty excited about it. I think we've got really, really, really good solid structure at this point. And I have fixed way worse, but fortunately on this one, I think we have more than enough work cut out for us. I think the metal work is going to be really fun because a lot of it's going to be focused on doing this as a custom grill, which I still haven't solved, but I'm excited to try it. And then everything else, you know, full chassis build, we're going to need to put a motor and a transmission and a rear end, get the suspension right. It's sitting up. I mean, it's got no motor in it, but that's, you know, that'll give you a nosebleed just looking at it. So we're gonna have to deal with all that. The interior is gonna be a trick on this one too. I need to find door panels and all that stuff. The convertible top is chopped, but not equally on, well, not the same way on both sides. So I've got a feeling that's obviously not like, I got some bubblegum welds and some, we're gonna call this mocked up is what we'll call it. So we're gonna have to address all of that, which is intimidating because A, I don't do fabric, but B, you know, there's a fair amount of metal work and mechanism that needs to make that go up and down, which I think, I mean, I could do it as a manual folding top, but obviously it's way cooler to get the hydraulic motors and stuff back in. So you have a push button like the old Cadillac. It goes, that's cool. It's just cool, you know? But it's a lot more functional. It's a lot nicer to pull into a parking lot, push a button, than it is to get out and jostle and fight with stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just looking at it, smoking it over. I really don't know where to start on it. Part of my guts says to start with mocking up a motor and getting the suspension and all that stuff so it's sitting right so that we can do our body work in a way that kind of would show the car at the stance that we're going to have it at. But I don't know. Maybe we'll just start with some simple rust repair and running board builds and just get that buttoned up. All right, fellas, there you have it. I think it's super rad. I've been dreaming about this car for, I don't know, before I bought it, and just it's been in my brain for over 10 years that I've owned it and just haven't had the capacity to really get into it. So now that it's here, I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a fun build. I think it's going to be really fun to drive, and not gonna lie, it just got here and magically, like, the weather shifted. It is a bright sunny day. It is in the mid 60s and we are still in February. So I think the world is saying start working on your convertibles more faster. So we got to get that touring ready for the spring, and we've got to get this thing going ASAP because it's just a pile of fun just waiting to be, you know, enjoyed. So anyway, thanks for watching Between the Sharks. Good luck on your projects out there. We will see you next time when we dig into something. All right, here we go.